The first shove came out of nowhere. Papers scattered. A chair screeched against the floor and everyone in the library gasped at once. Who shoves a librarian? Over late fees. Marcy, the head librarian, stumbled back against the counter, clutching her elbow with a soft groan. The whole building froze. You could hear the buzz of the fluorescent lights, the rustle of a page turning somewhere in the children's corner, and then Karen's voice, sharp as broken glass. I am not paying a dime for your stupid fines. This library is stealing from me. Her blonde bob shook as she pointed at the screen, jabbing her finger so close Marcy flinched. And then, yes, Karen leaned in, grabbed the edge of the desk and shoved. Gasped. A couple of kids squealed. Someone's phone clattered to the floor. My heart sank as I stood there, right by the history aisle, watching it unfold. God, this wasn't just some late fee tantrum. This was a train wreck in slow motion. Ma'am, please, Marcy stammered, rubbing her arm, her voice trembling. But Karen only grew louder. Don't tell me, ma'am. You're nothing but a book clerk. Do you think you're smarter than me because you sit behind this counter all day? I wanted to step in, but part of me was frozen. Who does this? In a public library of all places. Kids were staring wide-eyed. An old man in a plaid cap shook his head, muttering, "Unbelievable, just unbelievable." And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Karen raised her hand as if she might slap Marcy. That's when Officer Jennings, the community cop who sometimes patrolled the library, stepped into view. He'd been in the back, reading the bulletin board. His voice cut through the chaos like a knife. Ma'am, step away from her. Right now. Karen spun, eyes blazing. Oh great. The rent-a-cop thinks he can tell me what to do. I swear. The silence after she said that was louder than her scream. Even the kids stopped fidgeting. Jennings' jaw tightened. His hand hovered near his belt. Not his weapon, but his radio. Step away. He repeated, low and steady. Karen huffed, threw her hands up and turned to the crowd as if we were her jury. This is insane. They're trying to scam me over $2.50. Late fees are illegal. I'll sue this whole dump. Her voice cracked with rage. I felt goosebumps prick my arms. It wasn't just about money. This woman wanted a stage, an audience and a fight. And then came the twist. Because out of nowhere, a tiny voice piped up from the corner. Mommy, stop yelling. Heads turned. A little girl, 6, maybe 7, stood by the picture books, tears streaking her cheeks. She looked at Karen with pure fear in her eyes. Whispers spread. People's faces shifted. Not just shocked anymore, but disgusted. A couple of parents pulled their kids closer. The judgment in the air was heavier than stone. Karen blinked, froze for half a second, then barked. Go wait in the car. Mandy. The girl shook her head. No. You're scaring people. That sound. It broke something in the room. Even Jennings' stance softened, his brows furrowing. Marcy, still rubbing her arm, whispered, Sweetheart, you can stay here if you want. Karen lunged toward the girl, but Jennings moved faster. His hand clamped on her shoulder. That's enough. You're under arrest for assault. What? Karen shrieked, twisting in his grip. You can't arrest me for. What did I even do? I touched her arm. That's it. This is police brutality. The library erupted into murmurs. Phones lifted into the air. Cameras recording. She was finished and she didn't even know it. Jennings clicked the cuffs around her wrists with a crisp snap. The sound echoed like a gavel in a courtroom. No. You can't do this to me. I have rights. I pay taxes. This is MY Library. Marcy's voice, shaky but steady now. Cut back. Not anymore. Karen's eyes widened. What does that mean? But she didn't get her answer right away. Jennings walked her toward the door, her daughter trailing behind with silent sobs. The hush that followed was suffocating. And then came the real sting, one nobody expected. The library director, a thin woman with iron-gray hair, stepped out from her office with a folder in hand. "For the record," she said, her tone like steel, "this library board voted last year to permanently ban anyone who physically harms staff. Ms. Harper," her eyes pierced Karen, "you will never step foot inside any county library again." The gasp that rolled through the room was almost cinematic. "What?" Karen shrieked, struggling in the officer's hold. "You can't ban me. I'll sue you all." Jennings was already guiding her through the doors, but her screams carried back like a siren. "This isn't over. You'll regret this. Do you hear me?" The glass doors swung shut. Silence fell again, broken only by the faint sniffles of her daughter, who stood frozen near the counter. Marcy crouched down, despite her bruised arm, and offered the girl a gentle smile. "Honey, do you want some water? You can sit with us until someone comes for you." The child nodded, and something in my chest cracked. This wasn't just about late fees. This was about a woman who thought the world owed her everything and a community that finally said no. But wait, the story didn't end there, because 2 weeks later, the local news aired the footage. Yes, the footage. Every shaky phone video. Every angle of Karen shoving a librarian over $2.50. It went viral in a heartbeat. People online dubbed her Library Karen. Memes exploded. One showed her screaming under the caption, "When you can't afford late fees but can afford entitlement." The fallout was brutal. Karen lost her PTA position at her daughter's school. Parents didn't want her near their kids. Her husband, word spread, filed for separation, saying he was tired of constant public humiliation. And the library, donations poured in. People from neighboring counties sent money with notes like, "For Marcy, the brave librarian who stood tall." The children's reading room got a whole new set of beanbags and bookshelves. But the sharpest twist. 3 months later, Karen showed up again, this time outside the library, pacing by the entrance, shouting at the air, "You can't keep me out. This is America." She didn't realize she was already violating her restraining order. Jennings pulled up in his cruiser, stepped out and sighed heavily, like a man who had warned someone 1,000 times. "Ma'am," he said, pinching the bridge of his nose, "we've been over this. You're trespassing." Karen shrieked, "You can't stop me. Books belong to the people." But the irony, she never cared about books. She cared about control, about winning. And in that moment, standing under the fluorescent streetlight with handcuffs waiting for her again, she realized the story wasn't hers anymore. It belonged to everyone she had humiliated and everyone who had finally seen her fall. The sound of the cuffs clicked again, and this time, nobody gasped. Nobody cried. People just nodded, muttering under their breath, "Justice." And somewhere inside, I swear I heard Marcy exhale for the first time in weeks. Because sometimes karma doesn't whisper. Sometimes it drags you out of a library in handcuffs while the whole world watches. And isn't that the bitterest ending of all? Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more unbelievable but true homeowners association and Karen drama. Oh, you wouldn't believe what I saw last Tuesday morning. The sun had barely cleared the tops of the palms when the screech of a golf cart jolted me upright. Tires tearing through the dewy petals of the community flower path. Our path left a muddy trail like a scar on silk. And there she was again, Karen. Sunglasses too big for her narrow face. Hand on hip like she owned the damn subdivision. Her sister, oh yes, the other one, was riding shotgun, smirking like a teenager. They didn't stop. Didn't even slow. Just zoomed straight through the tulips I planted last spring with a team of neighbors. Petals flew, snapped clean from the stem, crushed beneath wheels and entitlement. I stood there, barefoot on my porch, coffee trembling in my hand, whispering to no one, "No, no, she didn't. But oh, she did." You see, that path wasn't just flowers and mulch, it was a promise. A silent agreement between the residents of Cypress Grove to cherish something delicate. I'd poured 3 weekends and $200 into that flower bed. The HOA approved it. I had receipts, photos, everything. I stormed down the front walk, heart thumping against my chest like a warning bell. "Karen," I shouted after her, "that's community property. You can't just—" But the roar of the cart cut me off. And Karen? She flicked her hand, not even turning her damn neck, just that little dismissive wave, like she was brushing away lint. God, the disrespect. My neighbor, Jesse, jogged out with his phone already recording. "Dude, I got the whole thing. Wanna post it?" I blinked. Hell yes. That night, the video hit the HOA Facebook group. 57 comments in the first hour. People were furious, especially old Mrs. Campbell, who donated the begonias. By morning, the board was tagging themselves in. Now, let me back up a second. Karen wasn't just your average pain-in-the-ass neighbor. She was the pain. The one who called in noise violations when your kid had a birthday. Who filed complaints about unapproved shade umbrellas during heat waves. Who literally tried to ticket my dog once for unauthorized lawn urination. And now this? No, I wasn't letting this go. Wednesday, 9:03, a.m., HOA meeting. Emergency session. The board didn't even bother hiding their annoyance. Melissa, the president, clacked her pen against her clipboard like a metronome of irritation. "Let's be clear," she said, her voice sharp. The community flower path was explicitly protected under last year's landscaping budget. Karen was informed of this twice, and her actions this week along with her guest are considered a direct violation of the Common Area Preservation Clause. A pause. Karen, hair immovable in its helmet of hairspray, crossed her legs and sighed like she was the victim. "You all are being ridiculous. I've lived here for 8 years. I know what I'm allowed to do. That path was always in the way of the golf cart lane. It's not my fault it's been moved." Melissa raised an eyebrow. "The path hasn't moved, Karen. You did. Onto the flowers." That got a little chuckle from someone in the back. Karen's face flushed. "And," Melissa continued, tapping her iPad, "per Section 3, Article 9 of the HOA bylaws, intentional damage to shared spaces carries a penalty of $500 and if repeated access restriction." Karen's sister leaned in with a snort. "What's next? You're gonna revoke her pool privileges?" Melissa didn't blink. "Actually, yes." Silence. The kind that sucks the air from a room. Karen straightened. "You wouldn't. We already did." And just like that, the room erupted. Some clapped. One guy, bless him, whispered, "Finally." Karen stood so fast her chair scraped backward, screeching like a car crash. "This is harassment," she snapped. "This whole thing is a vendetta. You all just hate me because I actually enforce the rules." "Oh, sweetheart," I said from the back, unable to stop myself. "You are the rule breaker this time. Maybe take a breath and sit down." She turned, eyes wild. "You shut your mouth. This whole thing is because of your stupid little plants." I grinned. "You mean the ones you ran over with a vehicle?" "Yeah, those." That's when things really spun. Her sister stood up too. "We'll appeal this. You people don't know who you're messing with." Karen's friends with the regional HOA council. Melissa cut in. "Already spoke to them. They said," and I quote, "she's your problem now." God. The sound of Karen gasping in disbelief was almost satisfying. Almost. But the best part? It was yet to come. See, 2 days later, she tried to use her keycard at the clubhouse gym. Nothing. She buzzed the door. Nothing. Then she tried the pool gate. Locked out. That weekend, while we were hosting our monthly barbecue on the community lawn, Karen had to stand outside the tennis court fence like a ghost of privilege, pass and hat pulled low, arms crossed, just watching everyone else have fun. And that's when I saw Ither's sister, climbing into another golf cart alone. Karen waved, but her sister didn't stop. Just rolled away with a shrug and a call of, "You've been acting real weird lately, Karen." Oof. Twist of the knife. But karma? Oh, karma wasn't done yet. That Monday, a landscaper crew showed up at Karen's front lawn. She hadn't paid last season's trimming fee. Turns out she'd racked up several violations of her own. They removed the decorative bushes she'd planted without approval and replaced them with plain turf. She ran out barefoot, screaming at them, "You can't just take my azaleas." They didn't even look up. And me? I just sipped my coffee from my porch, where the flowers were blooming again thanks to the neighbors who rallied together that weekend. We replanted everything. Even added a little sign next to the petunias that read, "Community roots run deeper than golf cart tracks." It was Jesse's idea. Genius. Karen hasn't spoken to anyone in weeks. Her Facebook's been quiet. Her once daily HOA emails? Gone. But sometimes, just sometimes, I hear the faint hum of her golf cart rolling slowly down the street like a ghost still haunting the path she ruined. Some folks thought that was the end of it, that Karen would just slink into the shadows, tail tucked. Lesson learned. Ah, if only. 2 weeks later, an envelope showed up in my mailbox. No stamp, hand-delivered. Inside, a typed letter on cheap paper threatening a lawsuit. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my sandwich. She claimed emotional distress, said the community turned against her because of defamatory flower propaganda. I showed it to Jesse, and he practically wheezed into his beer. "Is she suing you for gardening?" he asked, blinking. "Apparently, my begonias caused a hostile living environment," I said. "We did what any rational people would do, handed it to the HOA's legal committee. And guess what? Karen's lawsuit? Tossed. Turns out, when you run over protected landscaping with a golf cart in broad daylight, and there's video, you're not exactly on stable legal ground." But the story didn't end there. The HOA finally brought up what we'd all been whispering about, revoking Karen's residency privileges altogether. Not just her pool pass, not just her gym access. Her entire residency rights were now under review. Apparently, a clause buried deep in the bylaws allowed for forced property sale in cases of repeated HOA abuse and financial negligence. Karen had checked both boxes. Twice. At the next meeting, she showed up alone. No sister. No sunglasses. No swagger. She sat quietly as Melissa read through the violations, one by one. Dead air filled the room when it ended. Karen didn't even speak. She just stood up, collected her purse, and walked out. We haven't seen her since. Her house went up for sale a month later. Priced low. Sold fast. The new owners? A sweet retired couple who brought banana bread to the first HOA gathering and signed up to help water the flower path. Can you believe that? Now, every time I walk by those tulips, I grin. Not because Karen's gone, but because we stood our ground. We didn't yell. We didn't stoop to her level. We just let the truth and the bylaws do the work. Some call it petty. I call it accountability. And Karen? Well, she learned the hard way that when you mess with the roots, the garden bites back. Want more wild HOA stories like this one? Subscribe to my YouTube channel and stay tuned. There's a lawsuit involving a rogue gazebo and a flamingo army coming next. She lunged at me with a kitchen knife because I returned a plate of food. No, I'm not kidding. That was the night our sweet little neighborhood block party turned into a lawsuit, a public scandal, and a hard fall from grace for HOA Karen. It all started with a potluck. You'd think a community gathering would be innocent enough: grills sizzling, music playing low from a Bluetooth speaker, kids racing each other with sticky popsicles. I was hesitant about attending, not because of the neighbors, but because of her, Karen, our self-appointed HOA enforcer, event planner, block queen, and apparently culinary dictator. I suffer from a severe nut allergy. Not a mild reaction, not a little rash kind of thing. We're talking full-blown anaphylaxis. I carry an EpiPen like it's a lifeline because it is, and I make it a point to ask before eating anything at these gatherings. That evening, I showed up with my own gluten-free pasta salad, labeled and sealed. I was hoping to just hang back, be polite, show my face, and get out without incident. But of course Karen spotted me before I even got my folding chair unfolded. "Oh, I made something special just for you?" she sang, thrusting a floral-patterned plate in my face. The casserole was gooey, brown, bubbling on the sides. No nuts, promise. My gut twisted. Karen had a history of exaggerating things. Thanks. But do you mind if I ask what's in it? I said gently. Her smile twitched. It's just a family recipe. No nuts. Don't you trust me? That should have been my first warning. But I didn't want a scene. I took the plate, smiled, and set it on my lap. Then, when she turned away to fawn over someone's potato salad, I discreetly walked back over to the food table and left it there untouched. No fuss, no drama. At least that's what I thought. Minutes later, I heard her voice cutting through the music, sharp, nasal, furious. Who? Returned. Food. Oh no. She stormed over like a wasp on a mission, cheeks flushed, hair frizzing in the heat. Her heels clacked like gunshots against the pavement. You ungrateful little fraud. I made that for you. You think you're too good for my food? She hissed, jabbing a manicured finger at me. I blinked. Karen, I didn't want to risk anything. You know I have a... Don't lie to me, she snapped. You think I don't know what you're doing? Always playing the victim. Always calling the HOA out over imaginary rules violations. Imaginary? I once reported her for forging signatures to pass a garden ordinance that would have banned half the residents from planting anything taller than 12 inches. That little scam nearly got her removed from the board. Should have gotten her removed, but she weaseled her way out with a sob story and some bogus clerical error excuse. The woman thrives on manipulation. But tonight she didn't even try to hide it. In the blink of an eye, Karen grabbed a steak knife from the serving table. I kid you not, a knife. You want to act like a victim? Then scream now, she shrieked and lunged. Gasps and screams rippled through the party like dominoes. Chairs scraped. Kids started crying. Someone dropped a soda can with a sharp clink. I stumbled back, heart hammering out of my chest. And then, drop it, Karen. It was Dave from across the cul-de-sac, former military, now a postal worker, and blessed with a voice like thunder. He stepped between us like a wall, hand out, firm, fearless. Karen froze. Her arm hovered midair, trembling, the blade shaking slightly in her hand. Someone called 911. Cops came fast. Maybe it was the fact that half a dozen cell phones had captured the scene from different angles. Maybe it was the fact that Karen, still clutching the knife, started yelling at the officers, calling them servants of corruption. Whatever it was, they cuffed her on the spot. That should have been the end of it. But no, Karen wasn't done causing chaos. A few days later, I got a certified letter from Karen's lawyer. She was filing a lawsuit against me for defamation and public humiliation, claiming that I staged the entire scene to ruin her reputation as a beloved community leader. Beloved? What alternate reality was she living in? She even claimed in court filings that I had forged text messages to make her look dangerous. I was stunned, disgusted, and honestly afraid, because even though the video footage clearly showed her lunging at me with a knife, Karen was connected. Her brother was some regional councilman, and her husband used to be a local judge before retiring. But she made one fatal mistake. She underestimated how many people she'd alienated over the years. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who'd experienced her wrath. For other neighbors came forward, one of them a retired paralegal, offering statements, affidavits, even emails where Karen threatened to take down their family with the full force of the HOA if they didn't comply with her petty landscaping demands. One of them, an elderly widow who got fined for fence slats being half an inch too wide. Unbelievable. Even the block party knife incident wasn't her first meltdown. Someone unearthed footage from a Halloween bash 2 years ago, Karen screaming at teenagers for cultural appropriation because one wore a geisha costume. But the real kicker? She had blackmailed the event coordinator into disinviting 3 families based on her safety concerns. No documentation, just her word. So when her civil case landed in court, her whole history came spilling out like a tipped-over trash can. And let me tell you, it was glorious. Her lawyer tried spinning the knife incident as performance art. I kid you not. claimed she was rehearsing a play in the middle of a block party, in flip-flops, with barbecue sauce on her blouse. The judge wasn't amused, and neither was the county prosecutor. Yep, turns out pulling a knife on someone while screaming threats in front of 24 witnesses? That's not just HOA drama. That's assault with a deadly weapon. Karen was charged. The lawsuit? Dismissed. Karen's trial wasn't some quiet, backroom affair. It made the local news. Footage from the block party was played in court. Her shrill voice screaming, the knife in her hand, neighbors backing away in terror. It was undeniable. And when the prosecution laid out the pattern of her behavior abuse of HOA power, forged signatures, threats masked as regulations, even prior warnings from law enforcement, the jury didn't need long. Guilty. Assault with a deadly weapon. 6 months probation, mandatory anger management classes, and a restraining order that barred her from HOA participation forever. Poetic, right? Except Karen wasn't the type to take her fall with grace. She tried to spin the whole thing as a political hit job. In a bizarre post-court Facebook rant before her lawyer finally shut her down, she called the verdict a disgrace to neighborhood leadership and accused me of conspiring to dismantle community values via legal fraud. She actually typed that. Legal fraud. Ma'am, you waved a knife around because I didn't eat your food. As for the HOA, well, there was a vote. A long overdue emergency meeting was called. The motion to dissolve the current board, citing misconduct, intimidation, and ethical violations, passed unanimously. Karen's name? Erased from the website. Her garden rules? Gone. Her newsletter? Deleted. I still get a bit shaky when I think about that night. How fast it all spiraled. How close I came to real harm over something so petty. But sometimes karma doesn't just whisper, it roars. And Karen? She finally learned what it feels like to lose control. Thanks for sticking through the chaos with me. If you want more real stories of lawsuits, backfires, and justice served hot, hit that subscribe button on my channel. You don't want to miss what's coming next. When I first saw those unmarked cardboard boxes stacked on my driveway, my stomach dropped so fast I nearly dropped my coffee. Who the hell just dumps mystery packages in front of someone's garage at 6 a.m.? And why oh why was HOA President Karen standing there, all smug, like she just pulled off a master plan? "Morning, Dave," she chirped, not even looking at me. "Don't mind these, just a quick delivery. You know, for the neighborhood." Quick delivery. On my property. My pulse was already thudding in my ears, but something about the way she stood there, arms crossed, chin tilted up, made me pause. She was way too confident. I narrowed my eyes. "Since when does the HOA store stuff on my driveway?" "Oh, don't be dramatic," she said, waving a manicured hand. "It's just easier for the van to unload here. The other side of the street has too many cars. You'll live." Her voice had that syrupy tone that makes you want to peel your own skin off. My gut screamed something wasn't right. The boxes were sealed with thick black tape. No labels, no shipping marks, nothing. And they weren't light either. I tested one with my foot and felt the weight. Before I could argue more, Karen snapped a picture of the boxes with her phone on my driveway, then strutted off toward her SUV. I caught the faintest smirk as she slid into the driver's seat. Something was up. By noon, the boxes were gone. No note, no thank you. Nothing but faint tire marks where a different van must have backed in. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. 2 days later, the exact same thing happened, except this time, I was ready. I set up my old trail camera from my hunting days, pointed it right at the driveway. The next morning, click, 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 I caught everything. The same unmarked van rolled up, 2 guys in hoodies jumped out, dropped the boxes, and peeled off in under 30 seconds. 15 minutes later, a different vehicle picked them up. I showed the footage to my neighbor across the street, Mike. Big guy, quiet, kept to himself. He watched without blinking, then looked me dead in the eye. "You need to call someone," he said slowly. "What?" the HOA? I scoffed. "They'll just back her up. She's the president." He hesitated, then leaned in. "Not the HOA, I work for the federal government. Those aren't just boxes." I blinked. "Wait, you're telling me?" "Contraband," he cut in. "Smuggled goods." And if she's using your property, she's either stupid or she's trying to set you up. That last line made my chest tighten. Set me up? Oh hell no. The next week was a blur of paranoia. I kept my car in the garage, checked my camera every night, and sure enough 3 more drops. Always when I was asleep or out. Always gone by midday. I didn't confront Karen again. Mike told me to play it cool. He said his team was already digging. But then Karen made her mistake. She left a note. It was taped to my door on HOA letterhead, except the logo was pixelated, like it had been scanned and printed from a bad copy. The text was short. By agreeing to host temporary deliveries, you are supporting the HOA's seasonal fundraising project. Thank you for your cooperation. And there it was, my signature, forged in sloppy blue ink at the bottom. My blood boiled. A forged document, on official-looking paper. She had no idea she'd just handed me the perfect weapon. I took the note straight to Mike. He didn't even read it twice before pulling out his phone. This just turned into a federal case, he muttered. The next drop was different. Instead of the van, a black SUV rolled up, and I swear, I've never seen people move that fast outside of a movie. They swooped in, grabbed the boxes, but before they could leave, unmarked police cars blocked both ends of the street. Lights, sirens, shouting. I watched from my window, heart pounding, as Karen came jogging out in her bathrobe, screaming, "What's going on? This is a private neighborhood." Mike was already outside, flashing his badge. "Karen Walters?" he called. She froze. "What wise? You're under investigation for interstate smuggling, mail fraud, and forgery. Please step aside." The look on her face, God. It was like watching a balloon deflate in slow motion. They cuffed her right there on the sidewalk. I almost felt bad. Almost. But here's the kicker: the fundraising project she'd been bragging about in HOA meetings? Total fiction. The goods were high-end electronics stolen from cargo shipments, moved through drop zones to throw off tracking. And my driveway? Her perfect decoy. The forged note made the case ironclad. She couldn't argue her way out of her own fake paperwork. Of course, she tried. Oh, she tried. In court, she claimed the boxes were donations, and the signature was a simple mix-up. The judge wasn't having it. Between the camera footage, the federal sting, and her own forged letter, the verdict was swift. Guilty. When the sentencing came, I was in the front row. She avoided my eyes the whole time, but I could feel the heat of her glare. Probation? Nope. Venus? Oh, plenty. And a nice stretch of federal time to think about her life choices. But the real cherry on top. The HOA had to hold an emergency election for a new president, and every single neighbor voted for literally anyone who wasn't Karen. Karen didn't go quietly. 2 months into her sentence, I got a thick envelope in the mail, no return address. Inside was a handwritten letter from Karen herself, dripping with fake politeness. She claimed she'd been wrongfully convicted and was pursuing legal remedies, which was her polite way of saying she was suing me for defamation. I laughed out loud. A lawsuit? From prison. It read like something she'd scribbled on a napkin in the cafeteria. She accused me of collaborating with federal agents to entrap an innocent HOA leader and demanded $250,000 in damages. Oh, and she wanted her good name restored in the community. I showed it to Mike, and he actually chuckled. "She's not going to get anywhere," he said, flipping the letter over. "She filed it herself without a lawyer. And even if she had one, the evidence is so stacked against her it's practically a skyscraper." Still, the pettiness was almost impressive. She was behind bars for smuggling, mail fraud, and forging my signature, yet somehow she had the nerve to paint herself as the victim. The court dismissed her suit within 2 weeks. The judge's statement was so blunt it almost felt like a roast. The plaintiff's claims are not only frivolous, but they border on delusional. I might have framed that line if I were the type to decorate my living room with legal victories. News of her failed lawsuit spread faster than a summer wildfire. Neighbors who'd once been afraid of crossing her started telling me their own horror stories: petty fines for leaving Christmas lights up, threats over fence colors, even a noise complaint against a deaf veteran's wind chimes. It was like a dam breaking. Everyone had a Karen story, and now they weren't scared to share. By the time the new HOA president Martha, a sweet retired teacher, took over, the whole neighborhood felt different. People waved more. We held a block barbecue without anyone demanding a permit. And the best part? My driveway was finally mine again. One evening, I spotted Mike across the street, leaning on his porch rail. I raised my coffee in salute. He just grinned. "Guess she picked the wrong driveway, huh? Guess she picked the wrong neighbor," I said back. In the quiet that followed, I thought about how close I'd come to being framed, to having my life turned upside down because someone wanted to use me as a shield. If Mike hadn't stepped in, well, let's just say I might have been the one fighting a lawsuit instead of winning one. Karen's story ended in a cold cell and a pile of unpaid legal bills. Mine ended with a clear driveway, a clean name, and the satisfaction of watching karma do its thing in broad daylight. So, if you ever think HOA drama can't turn into a federal case, think again, and if you enjoyed hearing how this one played out, hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel for more unbelievable but true neighborhood stories.